Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with a bit of Total War Warhammer 2 2v2 action. So this past weekend, TzuDevil and I were doing a bit of 2v2 as well as 1v1 games, and we had a lot of fun. So this first game was the 2v2 game. It was a whole bunch of just ridiculousness. We did a combo of Brettonia and Dwarfs, and so hopefully you guys do enjoy this gameplay. So looking at, of course, our builds, we kind of, TzuDevil, of course, he loves his dwarves. That's basically his go-to faction. So faction he just focuses on completely. And so, of course, he's playing as the Dawi. And we figured that what better faction to complement the dwarves and their weaknesses than Brettonia? Because, of course, one of the really big problems the dwarves have is a lack of good shooting units. And Brettonia provides that. Of course, you know, Rangers, Quarrelers, Thunders, they're just so expensive and so inadequate. Fortunately, we have Peasant Bowmen here, and these guys are just so overpowered, and they're really going to be able to sort of make up for the weaknesses in the Dawi roster. Now, in this situation, we were up against the Vampire Coast, and both of our opponents chose Vampire Coast, so it was a doubled up sort of zombie defense box, and we figured what better way to get them out of there than a whole bunch of DACA. Going over the builds here for the Lords, we do have the Fey Enchantress over here, backing up Beligar, Iron Hammer for the Dwarves. For our opponent's side of things, we do have good old, that's not him, that's a Vampire Captain there, they look the same. Closter Direfin over here, or Deerfin. She does have a whole bunch of spell selection. She's looking absolutely amazing here on foot. And she's got basically I do believe she actually has all of her spell selection, so pretty crazy stuff there. Otherwise, we do have Luther Harkon on foot, in fact, providing his various support, his magical defenses, and all that sort of stuff, as well as his debuffs. So he's going to be one mean customer this game, and he's backed up by a whole bunch of raw firepower. For the compositions, we went super wide. In fact, we outnumber the zombie hordes with hordes of unwashed peasants and dirty Dawi. Going over the build, I did bring two paladins, so these were our anti-large heroes, sort of to goon out big targets, dive into the backline, that sort of stuff. They do both have Foe Seeker as well as the Charmed Shield, and they both brought Guardian, which may be kind of wasted, but regardless, oh well. Definitely these guys will be able to lay the anti-large smackdown on our opponents. Alongside that, we do have a very wide Dawi front line. The Brettonian line here is basically all shooting. TzuDevil, he did bring a whole bunch of Dwarf Warriors. He's got a whole bunch of Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. So some tools if we run into Depth Guard, some tools if we run into sort of trashier infantry chaff. It's Dwarf Chaff, but Dwarf Chaff is, of course, far superior to Pirate Chaff. We also do have a whole bunch of Slayers here in the backline, 5 units of them, in fact, scattered around the periphery, helping provide an anti-large protection, as well as a protection against things like dogs and that sort of thing, if they try to get in on my backline. I myself did bring some infantry as well. We do have a Grail Relic here, providing some leadership support. The Holy Wardens of Lamai Suntal, a bit of a powerhouse sort of meat grinder unit to just chew through the squishy targets, and then 3 units of Spearmen at Arms, because I wanted to have some sort of backline defense if TzuDevil was not able to get his Slayers in time, or of course he might be distracted elsewhere. I wanted to have a little bit of resources available for my own usage. Otherwise, a whole bunch of Peasant Bows. It's a mix of Peasant Bows with fire arrows, Peasant Bows with fox arrows, all sorts of bows. And then we do, of course, have the Fey Enchantress sitting here pretty, leading these guys. On the periphery, we do have 2 units of Knights Errant, 2 over here, and then on this flank, we do have the Defenders of the Fleur-de-Lis. These guys, of course, are the Regiment of Renown Knights Errant with the Frenzy as well as Silver Shields. And finally in the back, we've got Commando Rangers, 5 units of them deployed way in the back line. We kind of expected our opponents to be more centered, and that is a horrible drawing, but whatever, you guys get the idea. And so the Rangers were deployed to pincer them. But our opponents deployed on this side, probably looking to use the forest for their defense, and because of that, only these Rangers are really in a good position to attack. For our opponent's build, it is a defensive gun box, and if we look over things, you can see it's a whole bunch of zombie pirate deckhands with halberds, just a complete mix of motley crewmen. Single Queen Bess here in the center, 2 gunnery wights as well as a gunnery wight mounted on a Marauding Promethean, so our opponents were definitely not going to be running low on ammo on all these deck gunners and zombie pirate handgunners or the Queen Bess. In the back, we do have a few depth guard, actually, and when I say few, there are actually 3 units of them. So these guys, no pushovers in melee, they will gut honestly lower end Dawi troops easily, and my cavalry will die horribly if they get stuck in on these guys. So depth guard with pole arms, depth guard with normal sort of dual wielding axes, so just some absolute tears in the night here for our composition. But we do have a lot of DACA, so that'll hopefully compensate. Then there is a whole bunch of pirate gunnery mobs on the flanks, a single bloated corpse hiding in the woods, and 4 units of doggos, so scurvy dogs hidden over there. So our opponent's playing very defensive, very campy here in the back. But immediately we are going to start getting punished. You can see there the blast from the Queen Bess, knocking out multiple battle pilgrims and completely smushing these dwarf warriors with great weapons. But our line continues the advance, not slowing, simply pushing through. The Knights Errant over here did take a volley, but they are now getting in on the scurvy dogs. And whilst scurvy dogs really aren't built to fight these sorts of troops, they're just not really kitted out for. You can see the deck gunners there getting some shots in, but we're able to get into these guys. Unfortunately, we didn't get a charge off, so the hounds there doing some work, but in the protracted fight, the Knights Errant will do well. And of course, these hounds are kind of boxed up, which is less than ideal. In the meantime, over here, the Paladins are looking to get some cheeky flanking maneuvers done, and perhaps diving on the backline, and the Rangers here, the Commandos, the professional assassination squad here just sneaking up. The hit squad does open fire, and the Queen Bess is going to start losing a lot of HP. You can see it losing about 1,500 or so HP on the opening volley. But unfortunately, the shots are going into the back, into the crews, which means they're not going into the gun, which means the gun is going to keep firing and stay on line for way too long, unfortunately. That said, over here, the peasant bows are unloading on the dogs because we've got a lot of ammo to spare, and they are just mulching these guys. Unfortunately, things are looking a little more grim over here. The Holy Wardens getting stalled out, getting completely slowed down, and getting completely demolished. They're down to almost nothing. The Grail League barely keeping things in line over here. But the mob advances. We've got a lot of troops, and our opponent do not have that much firepower, so definitely some rough stuff. The Queen Bess here, you can see holding out. She's down by a bunch of HP, but because it's all been crew getting shot to death, she's holding strong. Unfortunately for us, our opponents here do get the damned Knights Errant on the field, and these guys are going to be able to go after these Rangers. The Rangers are being whittled down by the enemy fire as well, which actually has freed up my Knights Errant over here, because these deck gunners focusing over on these Rangers means they're not focusing over there, which is really good. Meantime, the archers are going to overwhelm the deck guns because archers outrange them, they outdamage them, and of course, as we all know, the Brettonian peasant bowmen are the best unit in the game for their price point. Or I would say so at any rate. They're just ridiculous. They're able to mow down those deck gunners pretty quickly and keep pushing. Meantime, the scurvy dogs over here do get caught by slayers who get the favor of the Fae, so these guys supped from the Grail, and now they're absolutely even more badass than before, and they're just dicing through these scurvy dogs with contemptuous ease. Over here, the zombie pirate deckhands, not doing too much. The Fae Enchantress pushing through here. TzuDevil hurriedly sort of alerted me that there's a floated corpse in the woods, and I'm like, crap, can't let that get into our troops. So we are pushing in with the Fae Enchantress, who's going to tank this like an absolute champ, and doesn't even stagger her. She just kind of steps back and rides through, not giving a care in the world. In the meantime, the peasant bow fire is just mulching through his backline. Unfortunately, the Queen Bess here sticking around for way too long, but simply put, our opponents just do not have the resources to really defend this, and you can see the backline being overwhelmed by volley after volley of fire, while the dwarves do commit to the front line. Dwarf warriors coming in, the Fae Enchantress providing a mortis effect, and the Grail League helping keep the dwarves in the fight. So the depth guard not getting an optimal push here. They're going to get bogged down a bit, and in the meantime, the fire just rains down. And you can actually see the difference that the Grail League is making. Here, these dwarves, they're getting beaten down, but they are in perfect sort of health, or in perfect moral health, I suppose is the correct term, thanks to the Grail League. But over here, they are going to start routing because the depth guard do come in and decide to dice them to shreds. They do, of course, have Luther Harkon backing them up. But unfortunately for our opponents, the rain of peasant fire continues coming in, and these guys just cannot hold. Now, certainly Queen Bess is being a nuisance. She's firing on my peasants now. Going to do a lot of hurt there. These guys dropped to 48 miles instantly. But the peasant mob, man, can't underestimate them. They're going to dice through these guys easy. And now, dwarf warriors pushing through the front line, getting through. In the meantime, over here, these peasants focusing down the depth guard. Depth guard unshielded. Who cares that they've got 90 armor? It's just not going to protect you against the mass fire of all these bows. You can see they're getting hit by pox arrows. They're being slowed down, and they are just not able to close the gap as the peasants unload. And these guys are just kind of strolling forward. It's kind of hilarious. Just walking across the mud there. The Holy Warden's trying to close in. These guys are going to get a little bit of a charge off, but honestly, at this point, it just doesn't matter. Their leadership is buckling. Sure, they're going to get the hunger off, but sorry, bud. This isn't going to work. The peasant bows, they're too potent. Peasant bows are just OP. In come the Holy Wardens, and they're going to crumble. In the meantime, the Spearmen reserves are pushing through the front line, helping tie things down. Unfortunately, these guys did get sort of destroyed here, but we were able to tie things down. And in the meantime, the Paladin's still around and kicking, diving on the gunnery way, able to beat the snot out of him because, of course, they are anti-large. And although he does have some good armor, he's just not really designed to fight two sort of goon squad lords there. In the meantime, Knights Errant flanking around the side, looking for an opportunity, looking for an opening. Another bombardment going down there. Unfortunately, Vangeist's Revenge coming in, and it does do some damage here, kind of barraging my poor peasant bows. But, you know, peasant bows, they've got the numbers. And for every one that gets chopped down, for every peasant bow that routes a couple hundred feet, there are a horde of them to compensate, and they're just overwhelming these troops. The depth guard getting shredded, the gunnery wights getting shredded. The spearmen will fall back, but they're going to rally, and the rangers are still over here unscathed, able to pour on withering fire. You can see there's even a unit of rangers over here. These commandos still sticking around to the bitter end, and although Closter Deerfin as well as the rotting Prometheans here are trying to save the day, it's just not enough. The paladins are chasing her, and things are looking rather grim. Over here, the Vampire Fleet Captain trying to hold the line, but it's really not going to cut the mustard. And that continuous fire from the Peasant Bows just ruining the poor Depth Guard. They're just not able to hold out. Peasant rabble, you know, guys, they're nasty. They're hard to deal with. The Zombie Bar Gunnery mobs, sure, they're getting in there, doing some damage, but they are disintegrating now. The Paladins are diving in, trying to snipe out Luther Harkon because he is sort of a threat. And in the meantime, the Fan Chanter is going after Gloucester, which is really an ideal target for. Gloucester does not have much in the way of melee defense, and Fan Chanter does magic damage, which is ideal. It means that delightful magic or physical resistance is going to do nothing for him. Elsewhere, you can see the Peasant Bowfire finally breaking through those handguns. Over here, we did manage to shatter some of those troops, and now it's time for the Gunnery Wights to face the might of the Unwashed masses. And this Gunnery Wight over here in absolutely terrible shape, getting torn apart. Fan Chantress is in there, smushing Closter Deerfin, and Luther Harkon is also going down to the Paladins. There is a little bit of sing there as Ursula gets sent to the Abyss. Apparently, actually, she did disappear. I was about to say, if she just stays there, that's a little disheartening, but Luther is going to shatter, and at this point it is going to be GG for the forces of the Dawi Brettonian alliance. And you can see the poor Vampire Fleet Captain here getting bullied, just sent flying. Vampire Fleet Captains just are not that tanky, poor guys, and they do crumble there to dust. So close victory for me and Sue. Or it's Sue and I. Look at me. I can English good, guys. I promise. I'm educated or something. But in all seriousness, it was a pretty bonkers game. We'll do look over the results here. For myself, I suppose, first of all, the Peasant Bows did amazing work. They just mowed through hordes of chaff. And more the important shooting stuff as well. They tore through the Depth Guard. They tore through the Zombie Pirate Gunnery mobs as well. Obviously, Peasant Bows are not as good as Dwarf shooting, but they are much cheaper. And you don't really want that much cav against Pirates, because Pirates do have a lot of tools to just really shut down or cripple cavalry, especially if you try to go more elite. If you go cheaper, you're going to have a tough time breaking through, I figured. So, you know, why not just outgun them? It really does work wonders. Especially with the Dawi front line to hold for you, which is the nice thing when you do synergy like this. You get a huge overwhelming fire from the Peasants, and then you get the benefits of the Dwarves. And the Paladins, low kill count, but they did some amazing work against Lords and Heroes. They managed to damage all sorts of units. So they did some good work. The Fan Chantress killing at Gloucester at the end, but also just draining enemies, bombarding them, doing some good healing some of those Dawi blobs. Obviously, Dwarves don't normally have access to healing, but she was providing that. And the Railroad League also helping keep that front line in there a little bit longer. The Cav didn't get highlight all that much. One of the units actually shattered and routed off the field because they was so close to the edge. But the Knights Errant actually did some work as well. So definitely, I felt like this whole build basically carried their weight, except the Holy Wardens, who were on the receiving end of Queen Bess for that entire game, basically. Looking at TzuDevil, he did get some great results out of his Dawi. Some of the Slayers, obviously some of these units got caught up against Depth Guard, and Depth Guard will mulch through these lower end troops, and there's not much you can do about it. But a lot of these Dwarf Warriors still did amazing work. They just chopped that chaff up. The Slayers did some amazing work there, and the Rangers got some really valuable kills. They managed to tear up the artillery. They managed to distract our opponents. Backline, those deck guns focused all their hatred. The Claustra summons, they were all thrown against the Rangers, and that was really, really valuable. But a lot of these skills, a lot of that sort of stuff, actually really important, just keeping that front line contained and allowing the Peasant Bows to really do the work. So that was some great fun synergy there. For opponents, for Gialish here, he went with basically more of a, I suppose, the melee or support build here for their composition. He did bring Luther Harkon, who of course is very potent, just a nasty piece of work. Vampire Fleet Captain of the Deeps, who got some cool summons as well as some cool magic off. The two Gunnery Wights, who I felt like they didn't really have much of a purpose here. The Fan Chantress and Belagar were kind of safe within their blobs of troops, and the Gunnery Wights didn't really have high value targets to shoot. So shooting peasant mobs or shooting something like Dwarf Warriors or even Slayers, it's not going to net you much value. So I felt like they didn't get much, and the enemy shooting just got overwhelmed by mass fire. I definitely think Lord Vampires might have been a little bit better there. The Depth Guard did some crazy work. Now, certainly they did get smushed by mass fire eventually, but they did some really good work against the Dawi front line. Obviously, they mulched through the peasants as well when they did get on them. The handguns, not much done there. Kind of expected. They faced a lot of shooting. For the other player, for Sky SC here, he did have a whole bunch of zombie trash. That was basically our opponent's front line. Queen Vest getting massive value, almost 200 kills, just crazy stuff. We didn't manage to take her down until way late in the game. Really, TzuDevil tried. He had those rangers on point and ready to goon her out, but because all their shots were going to the crew's like 2/3 of the Queen Vest's HP, so it just wasn't killing the gun. The crew stuck around and like all 5 of them or whatever, and the gun keeps firing. And I didn't focus it, which I really should have once I realized that the rangers were not targeting the right point of the gun. I should have focused it with my peasants, but I didn't. So, oh well, what can you do? The Hounds surprisingly did actually force the unit of Knights Errant off the field. Claustra Deerfin actually got some crazy kill counts. I'm not entirely sure where she got all that kill count. Perhaps some of the magic that was being thrown around did that work, but regardless, a lot of fun, just a bunch of ludicrousness. And there are going to be more games coming up, more 1v1 action between me and Tzu in the upcoming few days. TzuDevil has his own take on this match as well, so I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I missed. This was a 2v2. There's just action all over the place. So if you're looking for a different take, if you're looking for hopefully some stuff that I missed, be sure to check out TzuDevil's channel. Be sure to check out his take on things. And we are going to be doing separate games after this. I'm going to be casting some 1v1s myself. He's going to be casting some of our 1v1s that he did. We've already decided we kind of split which ones we're casting. And so be sure to check out his channel and check out the games he'll be casting over the next couple of days because they were a lot of fun, and I certainly hope you guys enjoy them. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.